Murder me. Okay.
He just wants us to do this again and
Yes.
again and again.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, ready?
Yeah, and I'm going to
That was a warm-up.
save us some grief.
Okay.
Okie doke. We are here interviewing Richard Hillier Lohr. Lohr.
Where do lions and tigers and big animals live?
Okay.
They live in a lair.
Oh, in a lair.
Yeah.
That's how you pronounce your last name, sir? Excellent. Richard Lohr, who resides at 2371 Northeast Center Circle, Jensen Beach, Florida, 34951. Okay, and his place of birth was Cleveland, Ohio. Birth date is 18 January 1928. And Mr. Lohr was drafted into the U.S. Army. And carry on, Kendall.
Okay. And he is a veteran of the Korean War. And at the time you were drafted, you were living in Fort Lauderdale, correct?
Yes, I was.
And you left those beautiful girls on the beach.
It was a trying situation, but I thought that he had a little more pull,
So you decided to comply.
That's right.
Absolutely. Okay. And did you, when you were drafted, did you get to pick the branch that you went into, or they pretty much told you this is where you're going and what you're doing?
It was very easy. You walked in, you pushed your hand up, and you got on a train in Fort Jackson, South Carolina.
I know it well. Okay.
That was it.
There you were. And tell me a little bit about what it was like there in Fort Jackson. What was it like in your boot camp training? And is that where you went through boot camp training there?
Well, it was kind of a shock. Casual living in Florida, very restrictive, very training-oriented. I had one little thing. There was a young man kept eyeballing me, and I finally went over and I said, what can I do for you? And he looked around and said, I can't read or write. Would you write a letter for me to my folks? He was not kidding. So whatever he said, I wrote down, and I said, you sign it. And he can't write, but he had a mark, a squiggle sort of. He said, that they know my mark. Never knew what happened to that kid, but have a pretty good idea, unfortunately.
Was that in Fort Jackson that you met him there? And where, do you remember where he was from?
Tennessee.
From Tennessee.
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 And,
we're getting our English lesson too here, Kendall. Go ahead. Keep going.
So I went on, did basic training, did my infantry training, and one day some strange-looking people came in, and we want you, and you. And we were on the Fort Jackson Post football field. And every afternoon we played football, and every morning and night we trained. So we got to the end, and I said, well, what are we doing from here? He said, you're going to clerk typist school, and you're going to be a clerk typist, and you're going to play football, basketball, badminton, horseshoes, whatever the sport of the day is. And I didn't like the idea, so I went over to Main Post and found classification and assignment, explained it to this young man, and he said, you're out of your mind. Stay here. There's a war over there. So I went in the Signal Corps, and I became a pole climber, and graduated Saturday morning. Saturday afternoon, I was instructed to go down to the headquarters, which I did, and I was going to be an instructor. So I was an instructor. And that was in February. March, April, May comes along, and a very distinguished officer was out looking at all of us. And he wouldn't say anything, but he said, just keep going. You don't see me, I won't bother you. Okay. A week later, he came back and said, you 6 men are going to the United States Military Academy at West Point to work in what's called the Buckner and to handle all the signal up there during this training. So from then around to September, we were stationed at West Point and did our instructing. We came back, and I could see these kids still. I was a little older, and I kept volunteering for the Far East. And they said, "You can't go. Instructors don't go." So I figured out a way to help them. I skipped a class. I said, all right, all right. So on the 7th day of December, 1951, 10th anniversary of Pearl Harbor, the USNS Marine Phoenix slipped her moorings, and across the Pacific we went, getting to Yokohama on the 22nd. And I got assigned to a post in Sendai, Japan, where I was just one of the guys, a corporal, and within 6 weeks I became a sergeant and stayed there for almost a year. And came back and they said, "Okay, you were drafted, you're out. But we forgot to tell you one thing. You have 5 years reserve to fill in." So away I went.
So why do you think they picked you? Like, why did they keep pulling you out and making you an instructor, or pulling you out and wanting you to do certain things? Was there anything?
Well, probably more than anything, I was bigger than the rest of them and they could see me. But I took to the Army and learned a few short things that if you don't do this wrong, you're good. I moved along in the Army. I enjoyed it.
You were smart and you figured it all out.
Met a lot of fine people. And a sad note, there were 7 of us from a prep school I'd gone to, donated to, in Fort Lauderdale school. There were 4 of them, including me. When the dust settled, Don Porter, who nothing came easy, earned the Medal of Honor, and the rest of them, George Valentine and I were the only survivors of the 7. And on Memorial Day, I remember them. They were just kids. We were all kids.
You're all kids.
But they gave it their all. And stayed over there. And you want the side trip, the general?
Yeah. I was curious about your trip over from when you left and you went over. How was that? How was that on the boat?
It was on a ship.
Yeah. Was it?
It was a delightful cruise.
I can't imagine being on a boat like that for that length of time. I mean, had you ever been on a boat before, or was that something completely new to you? How did that?
I did small boats. Well, the first night out, you go out from Seattle into the Pacific, and it is very rough. It's and we were told to put our helmets at the head of our bunk, so if they had a raid on the ship, you'd put your helmet on and leave. That's not why they had it there. Everybody was donating their meals to the
to the helmet.
To the helmet. And the next morning, I was standing there, dressed formally, my drawers and T-shirts, and a man came down and said, "We need a medic." To which I said, "To do what?" He said, "Are you a medic?" I said, "Is there any cutting and stitching?" "No." I said, "Okay, let's go." So for the whole trip, I was a medic. And I did the mod, really not too much. We got to the far end, put the uniform on. He said, "Thank you very much, Corporal. You were a great help." I said, "That's good. I'm in the Signal Corps." But we lived a little better. We had a bunk, actually, and it was something to do.
Wow.
Now, a general or not?
Yes.
Okay. Are we still showing?
Yeah.
All right. I was elected to be the enlisted orderly for J. Lawton Collins when he came over to the Far East, which I did. And 6 weeks later, General Mark Clark, who was the commanding general of all the 8th Army, all the Pacific commands, the whole thing, and he wanted to meet all of the generals in that command. And they were in Sendai, Japan, and they were whispering their little things, we'll do this, and they finally got together and they were going to go by car to a hunting lodge up in the mountains of Miyagi Prefecture. And as he was getting in the car, there was a screeching sound, and everybody jumped and looked, and he said, what is it? Yes, dear. Do you have a 4-leaf clover? No. You're not leaving until you find a 4-leaf clover. All these generals now are looking at, do that again? But they're down there too. Everybody's digging in the grass. And this one officer disappeared and he's back. Sir, sir, here's one right here. Sure enough, there's a 4-leaf clover. Well, and he gets it, takes it to his wife, and she says, can we go now? Yes, dear, thank you. And away they went, half hour late, all fired up. But that was a tough war. And we all laughed about it for a long time, but that scenario played out right in front of me.
And you said it was like the screeching of the nails on the chalkboard.
Just
her
like
voice.
on a blackboard.
Just like,
Woo! And we didn't smile either.
oh, that's so funny. So you're over there. You guys land in your boat, and you're over there. And tell me a little bit about what was sort of your first experience. What do you remember about when you first got there?
Well, I found the Japanese to be a little touchy, being as we had
10 years away, right? Not
blown
far.
up their island for them, and we had to be careful with them. But the work that I was doing was keeping the communications open for the whole 16th Corps, was from roughly from Sendai all the way up to Hokkaido. And we didn't travel much, but we had keep the wires going. And one morning about 2 o'clock, it was 20 below zero, and it was windy. I was awakened to get the communications going again. So I dragged 2 other kids out. We went down and traced the whole thing. We found a wire had either been cut or broke from the freezing. And I didn't want them on that pole because you couldn't put on my heavy equipment that I wanted to because there was ice on the pole. And I burned the ends of my fingers, which is a court-martial offense. And I frosted my left lung. And I got back that evening. It didn't feel too good, but they let us sleep half the day. And I went down to the dispensary. We didn't have a hospital there. And the dispensary, I got a bottle of GI gin, cough medicine or something, and I took it, and I still have problems with it. And I tried to get some help a few times, and this is a shot at the government in a way. The man who was interviewing me for this problem said, "Who took care of you?" I said, "I have no idea because there were no doctors there, it was just a medic." He said, "Okay, we declined the entire thing, wiped it off. So I don't have this, and my fingers don't get burned every now and then. So they still react from that." Right. And go along merrily. And then
Did you get in trouble for you said it was a court-martial offense, I'm sure, because of the fingerprints.
Yes,
did you get in trouble for that at all?
Yeah.
Did you?
Oh, yeah. I hurt government property.
Right.
Right.
It's like you bust up a car. Oh, no, you can't do it. Same thing. You don't beat your body up too bad.
But you had to climb up that pole. Is that what you had to do to get the communications back going again?
I spliced the wires up, up the pole, tied them on, and did the Western Union connection. Well, and so the wires in the insulator and back down, and the whole thing took about 2.5 hours.
Now, were you ever in a situation when you're climbing up those poles where you got shot at or anything like that? Just the elements?
Yes. Is this going to get back too far or not?
No.
All right. I had volunteered to go to Korea, and when I got to my duty station, the first morning I was introduced to the commanding officer and his first sergeant. I saluted. He said, "You're here, you're this, you're gonna," and I said, "Sir, I volunteered for Korea." He said, "I do not want to hear that. You are not going there. We picked you for here." Yes, sir. About 6 weeks later, I was called into the front office, and they said, "Want to go to Korea?" And I said, "Well, yeah." He said, "Get your cold weather gear." And these other 3 sergeants over here who had been doing this, going over to help people in Korea. So we had a pass to go to Tokyo. And we got on the courier plane, we flew to Tokyo. And that's where we stopped. But we got on the wrong plane going back. And we went to the, one of the Ks. The Japanese built 40 airfields while they occupied Korea. And we were the closest to where we could help them. That's where we flew into. It had all been set up by the courier plane. And we worked with them for a little over a week and showed them how to do splices, how to get things up in the air, how to work their switchboards, and how to do their telephones. And nobody knew how because there weren't enough of them from the Signal Corps. Plus, the Chinese were trying to get back to China, and they had a bad habit. They'd cut every piece of wire they could find and shoot anybody else. And we got it done, and I went over 2 times. And the 3rd trip, the word was, "You have to take care of us while we're here. Feed us, give us a place to sleep." And this time they came out and said, "Get out of here now." And there were always weapons laying around from our people get killed. So we grabbed a weapon and we went to hide where they were hiding. Went back out the next morning, and they'd forgotten to tell 5 guys down behind us, and they're still up on the pole. 5 of them dead. And we stayed about 10 days that time, and then I went back once more. So I did about 34, 35 days in Korea, just doing signal work, and stayed on, came back, my time was up, had 7 years, I've become a sergeant real quick, and they wanted you to have about 8, 9, 10 years to be a master sergeant, E7 then, and I had my E7 in 5 years. I just took to the Army, and there I was. And just keep going?
Yeah, that's very interesting. I think that...
I met a whole bunch of characters, one like Dick Garvey sitting back there, and some kids I'd known, they had this on. And I said, "What's going on? What's the green hat trick?" And they said, "Why don't you go to jump school and come join us in Special Forces?" I thought about it for a while. So age 38, I showed up at Fort Benning, and the sergeant behind the desk said, "I have a word of advice for you." I said, "What is that?" He said, "Go home. You're too old, and you'll never make airborne." So I said, "Okay."
At 38.
So he said, "I'll be gone for 2 weeks. You student first sergeant, get them lined up in the morning and dismiss them in the evening." He came back later, 2 weeks later, he said, "You're still here, but jump week is next week. So I did my jump, and I don't know if you can see, but
Oh, yeah.
these are my blood wings, my first wings, and they're right here. And I was kind of proud of myself, being 38 years old and falling out of perfectly good aircraft and flying.
For the first time, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've enjoyed it. I've done a lot of things, been a lot of places, even with reserve. And I feel like I've contributed some things to other people's lives by helping them, getting them to do things. And the people who play, let's all go jump out of airplanes, and they have a different outlook to life. Some of them, you think these guys are screwy, there's something wrong, they jump out of these airplanes. It's a matter of get your act together, take the training and use it, and you go do it. But when you jump, you're not in the air more than about 3 or 4 minutes, then you're back on the ground. And we deployed to Europe. We had a mission that the Special Forces Europe said we could go do. And that was really one of the scarier ones on, because we practiced what we were going to do here in this country, flew over, got on the plane, flew 2.5 hours southeast from Frankfurt, Germany, or Rhine-Main, and when they opened the door, excuse me, to jump, there was nothing there. There was absolutely nothing. I couldn't see sky, couldn't see anything, couldn't see the ground. The green light went, out we go. We did our job and we came back, and they took us back to a small airfield in Germany. And the plane that dropped us picked us up. And the door opens, he's, "Hey, Team Sergeant, how'd you like that jump?" I said, "Okay, how high were we?" He said, "Don't worry about it, you're 550. If it's 500, you don't jump." So, up 50 feet, they threw us out. But we did our job, and I've enjoyed the people. They're different. You don't dare Special Forces because they'll do it. And excuse me, we kind of look down a little bit at the people who won't take the chance.
How long were you in with the Special Forces?
I was 17 years with SF and 18 years with infantry, artillery, signal corps, engineer, parachute qualified, and Special Forces.
Wow, that's impressive.
And we got to meet pretty young ladies like you and be interviewed and flirt with them.
Sure.
But,
You need a water break there, Sergeant Major?
thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Kendall?
He's got some other drink of it. No, I'm good.
No, I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about those questions.
Okay, I'm moving. Okay, let's see here.
Do you need anything?
No, I'm good.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Positive. So I understand you were working with, the radio and all of that, and you mentioned a little bit about your combat experience. What about, experiencing combat firsthand, prisoner of war, things like that? Did you have any experiences?
Well, the only thing that on that line is I didn't do it because we couldn't go to Korea.
Mm-hmm.
But the 30, I said about 34 days, we got shot out all the time because the Chinese were trying to disrupt anything they could while they were, what's called, advance to the rear, I think is what a retreat is called.
Right, yes, sir.
And they didn't care what got in the way. They wanted to get out of there, and we got shot at each day. But everybody over there got shot at.
And you mentioned the injuries you had. Did you have any other injuries? Did anything else happen to you? Did you ever? And did you get any medals for that? I know that they've given because like you said, everybody gets injured. Or
well, I got a bottle of GI gin for my lung. That was all. but I did. I rebuilt my lower ankle and foot in 1971. The aircraft was not exactly where we were supposed to be. We injured 16 people out of 62, and four of them never jumped again, except one of them went back to it, me. So I have a problem.
Right.
But when the time came, back door opened up, the man said, go, you went. That's all, it's simple.
Right. And when you were over there, obviously you were overseas for a long period of time. Did you stay in touch with your family back home? How did you, were you able to?
I sent any mail from Japan got back, but when we were in Europe, no, we didn't.
You couldn't contact them?
Well, no, because we were busy. we were moving around rapidly. It was a good mission.
And when you were there, did you feel like that any of those places you were, you had everything, all the supplies that you needed? Did you want for things? Was it?
Never been there, have you?
No, well, I've been to Japan, but but a much different time and a much different type of trip.
No, we had a resupply when we were in Europe, and they missed us. So we were digging up things from the farmers. We'd slip into the garden and grab a few things and wash it off and eat them, but no, they missed us. But so what? Keep going.
Just keep going. You got to keep. That's that will to survive.
Yeah, they didn't have any Burger King or anything like that.
No. And what about entertainment? We have Miss Saigon Radio here. Did you guys have any form of entertainment when you were stationed anywhere? I'm sure in Europe it probably.
Well, in Japan, yes, they. I can't think of. But anyway, they had groups would come in.
Bob Hope
and they were all pretty good, but we had to be very careful in Japan. And on the 15th day of April 1952, Japan reverted to Japan, and we had to be very careful where we went, because now they could be unfriendly openly, which they did. And you just be quiet, travel in fours, and go into the club and back to the base, but don't go around the countryside, because every now and then somebody disappear. They were irritated.
They were irritated. I can imagine. Yeah. It's only 10 years. That's all it had been, right? When you were there, since the bombing of Pearl Harbor and everything.
Oh yeah, because we departed on the 10th anniversary of Pearl Harbor. And I got there, and it's a very pretty country. And I got to see some of the reasons that they were really irritated. Osaka was a huge rail area. Most of it was still torn up. Parts of Tokyo were still in trouble. And the Sendai was the furthest north they'd ever bombed. At our sergeant's club, 10 stories high, and the bomb went right straight through the down to the basement.
Wow. And
didn't go off.
Wow.
So that was our club. They got the bomb out of there, but.
Wow. Did you, when you were there, did you have a chance to take any pictures?
Say again?
Did you have a chance to take any pictures?
Oh, over
photographs
there?
When you were over there? Do you have them?
Not more, about 4,000 or 5,000. I got lots of them.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do you have them all cataloged and labeled and everything, so you have all the names of all the people? That's what I've been working with my husband. That's a lot to remember.
I get started and my moving picture reel takes over, and I'm there again. I can keep moving around there. Most of the Japanese understood why, because they had started, but they didn't like the way we finished it with the A-bombs, and we killed a lot of people. But what did Sherman say? War is hell.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you keep a diary when you were there? a journal or anything?
No, I just figured what I was doing wasn't worth writing a lot of things down because it was quite repetitive in the signal, the teaching, which we learned how to do it real quick, or you got shipped out.
Right. You got to be good at your job. Do you remember when your day of service ended? When you actually were done and you're coming home, or
When they tossed me out,
yeah, when they chucked you out?
went down to Homestead Air Force Base and brought everybody from the 11th group that we could find, plus the group headquarters, or the headquarters was in South Miami. We had about 70 people there to getting rid of me. And it was a good one because there were a lot of good things we did, and we were pushing training most all the time. But you do it casually. Don't make it look like you're doing all this, because it takes the edge off. But I enjoyed being with them, and I miss the camaraderie of the people. And the thing I do miss, like those of us who are in it, are the people who don't know what you were doing. What do you mean you jump out of a perfectly good airplane in flight? What's the matter with you? You learn how to get situations, get the situation straightened out without hurting people if you can. And they're kind of above the general, just the everyday soldier with the green beret and the black one. We know we're better than they are, but you don't go around and tell them.
Right.
Just shut up and go do the job.
Right.
Where other people want a lot of praise, we do it, and that's it.
And that's it.
Like these people volunteered to be here, like you volunteered to be here. Did you squawk about it? Fine.
I was happy to come.
Good.
And you were probably happy to
Good.
serve.
And I enjoyed my time, as I said. And I've been out almost 25 years now, and I still miss it. I just, you see people with the, you know they got the beret on because they wear a cap with some identifying on the cap. We all show off. But yeah, we talk to them. Hi, how are you? Who were you with? Did you ever do an interview? No, you didn't ever do an interview? No, I didn't, but now we're doing one.
Yeah, that's great. And I don't think, just from my limited experience with my husband having been in the service, that you ever really forget, and you never really go back to whatever your life was before, because it's such an experience. Like you said, you miss the camaraderie. Right, you miss like that, and I feel like these conventions, when you come to, it's like a family reunion as much as anything, because you're just around the people that have. Do you feel that way?
When you get around like people, then like things happen. And again, still people who are on the outside who have. Well, I know somebody in Special Forces. So what? You know, we were together. We're not trying to prove anything. This gathering here that happens every year is kind of a nice thing to see old friends again, and people who go back way far in the founding of Special Forces. Every now and then they'll show up. And a couple of years ago, when we were up at Fayetteville, we have more people come there because that's where Fort Bragg is, and that's the front office. We were in a big room, everybody talking and yapping, and all of a sudden, not a sound, 6 medals of honor walked in at the same time. And that's impressive. One is, but 6. But they had a little gathering of them. They had a little get together. They were there.
What do you feel? What are your feelings about the military in general, having had these experiences? And I mean, today there's obviously 80% or so of our funding goes to supporting wars and the military and everything. How do you feel about that today? Has it changed your experience?
Wars are inevitable. Somebody's always got one going somewhere.
Right.
And I hate to see our people over there now getting chewed up almost for nothing. And I think there are 100,000 troops over there. And I probably shouldn't say this, but I think it's time to bring them home. And one of the reasons that they don't, and it's a shot at the government, who's going to pay their salary over here? So they get their pay over there, but now you're going to bring back 100,000 people to go out on a slow economy. If there was a place that we should be, I think we should be. But a lot of people get over there and they get hurt and killed, and not much happens. We don't get anything back from it. I shouldn't talk like that. But
No, that's why we're asking. I mean, the experiences that you have, changes that you've had, you've obviously lived it, and you know, it changes how you feel about it today, and it's interesting to hear it from someone that's been there and lived it. And is there anything that you'd like to add to this interview? Anything you'd like to say that you haven't said yet, or anything you remember, or anything?
Got some questions first.
Yeah.
When you separated, first of all, did you take advantage of the GI Bill at all?
I have.
For school or
I
anything?
didn't. This is a complaint. The government has not taken care of me. I have some injuries, and we talked about it, and I was asked, who was the medic or the doctor that when you went into the hospital? I said, I don't know. Decline.
What did you do when you came out of the service for a living?
Well, I'm a professional boat driver.
Okay.
For one thing, and I enjoy it. So I would pick up any time I get a boat, pretty good sized boats, not little outboards or anything.
Okay.
And we'd run from Fort Lauderdale up into New England in the summer, or down through the Keys and the Bahamas in the winter. It was just terrible. They made me go down there and fish and drink rum and cold beer, and it was just awful to be in that atmosphere.
That's pretty hard, I understand.
Yeah.
Obviously you belong to this veterans organization, the association, Special
Yes.
Forces. How often do you come to the reunions? Do you come every year?
My first visit to I was still active. I was 85, but I try and make all of the functions like this, again, to see who's getting fatter than me, or older, or balder, or something else, and more characters around.
Okay.
And unfortunately, we're thinning out.
Right.
But that's life. I'm a fatalist.
Okay.
I believe that when you're born, you get X amount of time. You don't know when it's coming. Well, you can get killed jumping out of a plane, can't you?
Right.
Yeah, if it's my time, yes. If it isn't, no. So I'm like, why worry about it? You're going to die anyway, so go take your chance. Stick your neck out once in a while. Help somebody else. Try and show somebody, especially younger kids, what they're doing wrong, and help them get out of the mess they're in. And I got some neighbor kids I kind of needle now and then, because I know what they're doing and they know they shouldn't be. And I got 2 of them straightened out, but the other ones think it's big stuff to smoke at one.
Gotcha.
Next time you get your record out and show me how much marijuana you smoked when you were in prison.
Okay. I think you have is there anything else is that where we're at, Kendall?
That's correct.
Anything else?
Is that, I mean, I
Anything else
apologize.
that we haven't covered, that you feel that we haven't covered, or?
Unfortunately, I can't hear your
Sergeant
question.
Major, is there anything else that you feel like we haven't covered?
Oh, Not really. I can sit here and shoot my mouth off all day, but most don't think you can't get scared, because if you don't worry a little bit when you step out of that airplane, there's something wrong with you.
Right.
But the training for airborne is exceptional, and you spend 2 weeks on the ground learning how to do just 2 things: how to get on the plane and how to get off the plane. 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. Then your 3rd week, you put it into practice.
Right.
And a friend of mine kept sticking me. He said, "Come on, jump with us." So I went over near Lake Okeechobee, and there was a little jump school over there. And he said, "Don't tell anybody you're airborne, and you're going first." Oh, whoopee. We were there 4 hours, and there were 4 people who were going to jump out of that little plane at 4 hours time practicing, where we would do 2 weeks at jump school to do the one thing, to get in the plane and get out of it. And I went first. And as I started to get out of the plane, the edge of the door caught me. I couldn't get in, I couldn't get out. So it shoved down real hard. And out I went, pulled, had a canopy, and I looked up, and the man who was teasing me, he gave me the hottest parachute that they had in the world in those days. And I looked up, and this thing's got holes all over it and little things hanging down. So I pulled this. Ooh, this is fun. So I got down, I did a proper parachute landing fall, and the guy's out there, he said, "Who do you think you are? That's not a student parachute." And I said, "But I'm a command sergeant major in Special Forces." Oh.
Okay.
So it was fun.
Right.
But my main thing now is boats, and every now and then help a couple of people. And Joanne came a long way. We've known each other for 42 years, and she still tries to mother me a little bit, which she should. And it's been fun. And I get to flirt with pretty young ladies like you, and I wouldn't steal you because you'd be bored to death, that's all.
Well, I think we covered pretty much everything.
Joanne, did you spend time, you were with him, you've been with a sergeant major for 42 years?
I spent time off and on, yes.
Okay.
All I'm going to say is he's everything he says he is.
Okay.
She said, "You're everything you say you are."
And while he's doing it, he's a
I
gentleman.
won't question that, because something else might come up, and
You said what? And she said that while you're doing it, you're a
Yeah,
gentleman.
He's a gentleman. He's always a
oh, I
gentleman.
can't be a gentleman. I'm an enlisted man.
That's all right. Your mama taught you good.
Your mama taught you good, she
There you
said.
go.
Your mama taught you good.
Yeah.
We want to thank you very much for the time that you've taken to give us this interview.
Well, I hope I didn't bore you or tell you any silly stuff.
No, it's been very, very interesting, fascinating, as a matter of fact.
Well, if you really want to hear some, I'll come back and we'll tell some real war stories.
That'll work. That'll work. We'll do it again some other time.
Yeah.
Okay?
No, thank you very much for asking me.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much.
This is
It
the
was a pleasure.
first.
And you're very pretty.
Well, thank you.